V2.2. With us today we have myself, John Morrison, also known as Confusis. We have Revenant, also known as Chris.
Hello.
And we have IntoxicatedPuma, also known as Rob.
Howdy doody.
Right, we've got quite a few different things to talk about today. We'll let Chris lead with what he wants to talk about first, because he's our main writer at the moment.
Oh, sometimes not. I don't know. But yeah, I think I'm just going to do a little humble bragging and talk about my new Alder Lake meshlicious system. So that I recently put together.
Go ahead.
So I've been running a 9900K, and I hate to admit it, I've been running in an ATX case that was definitely not SFF. So
shove it, unbeliever.
So I decided to see what it would take to make the 12900K actually work in a small form factor case. And I mean, obviously they've got some issues because of how hot that thing gets. And what I ended up with is a Gigabyte Z690i DDR4 board with a 280 millimeter NZXT AIO, a Z63 in there. And I've also got a EVGA XC3 3080 as my GPU. So I'm pulling quite a bit of heat through there. And after getting it all tested and working, I managed to stuff it all into that case, along with a Silverstone 1000 watt SFX L power supply, which, by the way, props to Silverstone. They've been sending us quite a bit of stuff to test. Them, MSI, id Cooling, all very, very supportive of the channel. And Zotac, I gotta mention Zotac out there.
You guys are awesome.
So, oh yeah, very, very much so. And what I learned very quickly is Alder Lake is a pain in SFF. It really is. My initial stuff, my initial tests, I came back and I was like, yeah, this isn't any worse than a 9900K. Well, then I started to get the GPU involved in benchmarking at the same time, running Cinebench and or Cinebench and Firemark at the same time, and very quickly watched the power ratings skyrocket and the systems hit 100 degrees Celsius and pretty much stick there.
That's that heat soak.
Oh yeah. Now, to Intel's credit, it only ever dropped from 4.9 to 4.8 gigahertz all core. And what I ended up having to do was I actually reversed the fans on the Z63 AIO. So now all the hot air is getting blown out the front of the case. And while it also serves as a nice little heater.
Which is fine because you're in the winter at the moment, unlike some people.
Absolutely. And it dropped my GPU temps 10 degrees Celsius on average. Absolutely. It was pretty amazing.
So just a vicious cycle of the CPU warming up the GPU and warming up the CPU and warming up your room.
Yeah, well, one of the things I hadn't worked with a meshlicious case before, and really what a meshlicious case is kind of like a vertical version of any sandwich case, like a Dan A4 SFX, except it has that AIO in the front, or what would be the top of an A4 style case. Well, typically we see those used as an exhaust. Yes. And I was trying to use it as a positive pressure system, and it just doesn't work. You know, it works, but it doesn't work.
Yeah,
I saw a massive...
I think there's a certain wattage level that you get to that it ends up being the opposite of what should be working.
Yes, yeah, and it doesn't help the fact that I'm actually using Noctua fans instead of the high RPM standard fans that come with it, because I enjoy hearing, and I don't want to go deaf anytime soon. So, when I got it settled down, it's actually, I have to admit, the quietest computer I've ever had at idle and, say, just surfing the web or writing or doing Excel spreadsheets. It's the quietest computer I've ever owned, and I used to build very large computers that were designed for nothing but quiet. When it starts to get the power revved up, you'll definitely hear the GPU. So now, a bit meandering off the topic, I will say that Alder Lake is going to be a challenge. It really is going to be the new SFF challenge.
Well, I'm just comparing it with my meshless rig, but I'm only maxing out about, 250, 300 watts, and it's fine.
Well, yeah,
but
you have that 6700T.
Yeah, 8700T.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah,
8700T and a tough 2060. But I'm also running custom loop, which does help a wee bit.
Yeah, definitely. That would help. I think custom loop may be something that people have to start really looking into if they're going to go any smaller or any other design than what I've got going here.
Well, I was going to ask about that. Do you think you would consider doing a custom loop with that set of hardware?
Yeah, I would.
Including the graphics card?
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one. I would find putting the graphics card in there, in that loop, a little bit difficult because I'm pulling 360 watts on that 3080, and that is no small amount to try to cool through a 280 millimeter radiator while simultaneously trying to cool a 280 watt CPU. And by the way, if you take the Alder Lake CPUs and you just raise, at least in my case, if you just raise it by the multiplier by 1, you go from 49 as your max all-core to 50, which is 5 gigahertz.
Ooh.
My wattage went from 230 to 280.
Oof.
Yep, and that's all I changed. So it's absolutely.
At what point does it start glowing from heat?
Pretty quick. Like the front of the case gets pretty hot.
Well, instead of doing RGB, you could do red hot aluminium.
Yeah. I'm surprised they don't have some extra colors in here. Now, you're going to be very upset with this, but now that I've got everything stabilized and tested, I am going to go back and I'm going to get the glass side panel.
Well, that's what I've got.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Somebody was upset with that.
That was one of our forum moderators who shunned me because I went for one of the glass side panels.
Now that I got my cooling problem solved, I'm going to reintroduce it.
Yeah.
That's the plan. And the reason is that, believe it or not, this system is so quiet that I can actually hear capacitor whine.
Ooh.
And that is much more bothersome to me than fan noise. And for example, the SFX 1000 power supply from Silverstone, dead quiet up until about 200 watts. And the chip will pull that, and you'll start to hear some of the capacitor whine long before you hear the fan. And it also comes from the main board. It's not just the Silverstone power supply, but you can hear some from the GPU, hear some from the main board. And the way I have my system set up, if I put a piece of glass in there, it's going to deflect most of it in the other direction, directly at where my wife sits, and I don't have to hear it. And she doesn't seem to notice. She just nodded at me like, doesn't care.
Or you could just get yourself a nice case of industrial deafness like I have.
So
just combine it with a small bit of tinnitus and you're good. That way you can't tell which is the ringing of the computer and which is the ringing in your ears.
I'm well on my way there for that, so don't worry about that.
So I'm going to assume when you're talking about the cooling issues too that you're running, you said 280 millimeter on that, and that's having trouble cooling it. So I suppose the fact that Noctua L12S doesn't even fit on most of those ITX motherboards probably isn't really even a problem. It's not going to be sufficient for cooling those anyway.
That is correct. The L12S, if you drop it down probably to its stock to the Intel stock 125 watts will probably work, but no, it's just not going to be sufficient to get the full performance of the 12900K. And I'd like to remind everyone that the 12900K is one of the fastest CPUs at 230 to 260 watts. When, I've got a 5950X system, which was the next system I was going to talk about because I moved it to a new case, on an L12S, and it is perfectly fine sitting at 85 to 90 watts, or 90 C, which is fine for that CPU, pulling 4.4, 4.5 gigahertz all-core, and getting 27,500 on Cinebench. Whereas, and that's sub 140 watts. So, whereas the 12900K, oh my gosh, these naming schemes, just like all numbers and letters all in my head. Whereas the 12900K is going to require 230 to 260 watts to be able to do that.
So basically, unless you got a 120 millimeter tower cooler, go home.
Or close loop.
120 or more, or liquid, yeah.
I'm going to say, if you don't have a 240 at least with clean airflow, don't bother.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah,
that's because with my T series.
I mean, I'm glad on one hand that Intel's competitive again, but it's like, at what cost, man? At what cost?
We've been here before, though.
Yeah.
We are. Yeah.
Prescott.
Yeah.
It's like
Prescott.
Well, I was going to say, even AMD back with, what were those 225 TDP?
Bulldozer pile driver.
Yeah,
yes.
The 9590 or whatever.
The 9590, yeah.
Didn't they include an AIO?
They did.
Oh my gosh, I kind of remember those. I remember looking at them thinking that was insane.
Yeah, there was literally
no on the plus side,
ITX AM3 Plus boards available because those CPUs were so insane.
And on the plus side, at least Alder Lake is competitive, and if not better than Ryzen. Their Bulldozer was just
an absolute pile of...
Yeah.
Yep. Oh god, that was like 20 years ago, wasn't it?
No,
6, maybe 7.
No, it's longer than that.
Bulldozer?
Yeah.
No, that was like 2015. The 59, 95, 90, whatever it was. I think that was like 2015.
So there was a time period between the Athlon 64 X2s and the Zen architecture that I just did not pay attention to AMD. So, I mean, like, I'm out of that one.
Yeah.
So one thing that I didn't mention, and I kind of should, is that I actually have been having quite a bit of trouble with my motherboard. It seems like they rushed this out quite a bit to try to be competitive with AMD. And the Z690 chipset, a lot of people are finding that it's throwing up Windows hardware errors when you try to run graphics cards, or even just when you try to boot in PCIe 4.0.
Basic stuff for a new platform.
Exactly, yeah. So right now, despite having one of the fastest PCIe 4.0 drives, it is stuck at PCIe 3.0, or my system crashes. And Gigabyte says they're working on it, but it really should not have launched in this state.
Basic functionality for a new platform. Yay, PCI Express 4. Maybe, eventually.
And some forum members have pointed out, or some, I don't know, I guess Intel defenders or whatever, they pointed out that, like, oh, well, all platforms have issues. Early Zen platforms had issues and whatnot. But this is stuff that can be wrapped up in about a month of solid testing. And there's some certain things that really just should not have been released. When you're putting the motherboard in the box with a BIOS that does not support the basic features on the box, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does worry me.
So I've opened up a ticket with Gigabyte on that, and I've also been privy to some of the Reddit forum threads and I've downloaded some of the custom BIOSes that they have released specifically for this board, and so far it has gone unresolved. So the Windows hardware errors at PCIe 4.0 have at least been reduced from 20,000 in less than a minute.
Oh, really?
To it was 20,000 in a minute. That's how bad it was.
It's almost like the error system's going to crash the system instead of the system crashing.
Oh yeah. Well, what happened is it would boot up, and I'd start seeing all the errors in hardware info, and they're rolling, and then the system just slowly ground to a halt.
Oh, so it was the error system crashing it.
So, and then it just died. It would almost be like I was trying to be on a BBS with a 2400 baud modem. Old reference for people who don't know that one.
Before my time.
Oh yes.
So here's the question: are we seeing similar things on non-mini ITX boards across Reddit and whatnot?
Yes, but not as much.
Okay.
So the mini ITX is getting a higher rate of them, which they believe is linked to a lot of the cables, the PCIe cables that we're using to extension cables, or risers.
Yeah. So you're still getting the same issues with graphics card plugged directly into the board, though, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people are.
It's not you don't launch a product with the basic functionality you print on the outside of the box not working.
I have not had this much of an issue with a motherboard since my Soyo Dragon back in the AMD.
Me, but yes.
Oh yeah. That thing I was, before I could actually download the BIOS, I had to drive 35 minutes each way across Tampa, Florida, to get to the company that sold it to me, in order for them to flash the BIOS, because the BIOS wasn't being distributed on the Soyo website. It was being sent to the the companies that were selling it, the stores that were selling it.
Dark Ages.
Oh my god. So at least I don't have to do that anymore.
No, but you've had, at this point, 15 odd years of no issues, really, for new in-box products, and then it's happening again.
Yeah, it really became a lot easier just to simply build a PC over the last 15 years. I ever since my Core 2 Quad, all the way up to this one, I really haven't had any issues. Everything has just worked.
Which is helpful, when you spend a couple of $1,000 on this little box on your desk. And
Yep.
I've got enough paperweights, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I did have one issue where I had some incompatible RAM with the Zotac.
Oh, that one I can understand.
Yeah.
Especially with the weird timings and stuff like that. It could have been mostly a timing thing or something.
Yeah. So, on a side note, I do have another 12900K system coming in, but I don't know if we want to talk about that a little bit later on when we talk about our updated test bench.
We can leave that for a little later.
Okay.
Titillate the listeners.
So, all right, what's next? I've humble bragged enough.
I think we got a lot of cases that apparently your Alder Lake system will not fit in because they don't support that liquid cooling.
Let me qualify that. I am referring to the 12900K. Some of the other ones are going to be just fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Top of the top end, you can kind of expect a little bit of issues, but...
Indeed. All right, so let's see. Cases. What are we talking about here?
What would you like to talk about?
The Densium.
Densium. I am a backer on this one.
I've just got the forum thread up on the screenshotty thing. There's some pictures. It's such a gorgeous case. I am all for wood front or wood paneling on computers. The more, the better.
It looks so good. It actually matches the Yamo speakers I have in my family room. That's one of the reasons I decided to back it. Don't remember him... When I backed it, he didn't have the 4 Plus and the 4 Plus Plus. So I may have to update my order a bit.
We've got the 4 plus. The original was 4 liters, then you got 4.5, and then you got 5 liters.
Yep.
So,
Well, the important thing is the GPU support. For the listeners that don't know, we paid about $1,100 US to get a 3060 Ti Aero ITX from MSI, and we had to import it from China. They are hard to get, and that's about 180 millimeter long GPU, whereas the 200-ish millimeter GPU from EVGA, that's also a 3060 Ti, was relatively readily available via Best Buy at its MSRP. So as much as I want to get the 4-liter one, I'm looking at that 220 millimeter one as a survival instinct. So the
especially with sourcing any graphics card at the moment, you kind of whichever is in stock when you've got the money is like, I guess I'll go for that one.
Exactly. So, but the case looks very nicely designed. It's got that, like you said, the wood front. I'm excited about it, and Densium has been very supportive of their backers so far. And they've reached out to us after we published some of the articles on it, and want to keep us in the loop, so to speak.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yes. So,
that's
and they were offering quite a good deal on it, actually, too.
Okay.
You know, they were including like a CPU cooler for the early backers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're definitely stepping into the small form factor community with the right foot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially bundling a CPU core, because that way you know that exact combination is going to work.
Exactly. You know, I think that this build, a 3060 Ti with a 5600X or a maybe like a 12400 or Alder Lake, brain forgot name.
Brain fart.
Yeah. Or like an i5 12400 or 12600 at most could be a nice combination, but definitely the 5600X would be a sweet spot there on the CPU. My one concern is noise, because if you look at the power supply...
I was just looking at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
40 mil
Flex
fan.
ATX. That's either really good or really bad. Zotac was good until it developed an error on me, which was just due to it being passed around to various testers. But I've heard some that are absolutely terrible.
So if I was to go for this case, I would end up doing the HDplex combination and just run an external brick, which seems wasteful when you've got that space at the bottom, but I've done my time with 40mm fans, never again.
Now here, you're mentioning the wood. Now, which color combination would you go for? Because he has a couple different they have a couple different samples of wood there.
So I'll just scroll down to this. See what picture they've got. So they've got a rosewood, they've got a walnut. Trying to find the pictures of each color.
I'm a big fan of that rosewood satin black combo.
I'm just browsing on the browsing while recording. How professional of me.
I think for mine I went with walnut to match my speakers, but that rosewood satin black looks really nice. And by the way, they are 108% funded for their initial one, so they are doing well. They've got So
we've got the rosewood satin black up on the screen now. We have a walnut with a satin white, a rosewood with a satin white, a walnut with a satin black. Personally, I'd probably go with the walnut and the black. Although...
good choice.
It's a difficult one because the walnut and the white's nice. I'm not a big fan of the rosewood. It's a bit red.
You know, I did rosewood style furniture for a long time. It looked really nice.
Okay.
and it's weird. I'm matching my PC to my old furniture. That's the weird thing when you start to get into wood cases, or partial wood cases. There is another case on our forum that is also. Actually, I'm sorry. Before I jump to that, let me make mention. If you show the Z39 cooler, that is the one that they developed and they were giving away for free for early backers.
Just loading that up now. There we go.
So I want to point out, I am very, very glad to see them throwing that cooler in, and I hope this is a trend that more case builders include, because I'm sitting there thinking about the CPU clearance on that case is pretty low, and I think your only other option really that would be effective would be that Noctua L9i or L9A.
Yes.
And Scythe Kazuti, I think, would do it as well.
Yeah.
Assuming you can get one.
Yeah. I got one.
Okay.
I bought it in China, like any normal American would do. But hey.
Straight to the source.
But I've got a Kazuti and...
Is the other one Gadati?
I don't... no, the Jita, the twin 80mm fans on top and bottom. You'll have to look that one up. But the thing is, if you throw an L9i in there with, under 40 millimeters of clearance, that thing's going to make a lot of noise, even with the Noctua fan, because the turbulence with the case panel right next to it. And having that fan underneath, I think that's going to help out a lot. And I've seen, was it Ghost that had Noctua bring back that L12?
Yes, that was Ghost.
Cooler.
I have one in my Ghost S1. So
that was those are smart choices there, and I think on a lot of these small form factor cases, you really need one where the fan is underneath the radiator to help with that noise, because they can get pretty loud if the panels aren't designed, to give good airflow. So I'm glad to see that they threw in that Z39 cooler, because that's pretty hard to find one, under 40 millimeters with the fan underneath. So that's pretty cool to see.
Well, it's just to be clear, that was only thrown in for the early backers, though, wasn't it?
But you can order it.
You can order it at the same time, but
yeah. But I mean,
$39.99.
Just the fact that they created the cooler for it, because I think that's, we were talking about Alder Lake just a little bit ago, and with these small cases, you're going to run into more and more problems with cooling, and I think the case makers, if they design the cooling for the case, that's going to help out a lot.
And in the future, that does open up other possibilities. We could see stuff more like the old shuttles, where the cooling solution was specifically designed to cool using the case's design.
Yeah.
Well,
that's like...
I can remember some of the shuttles had long blower fans that are attached to long, almost laptop-style heat sinks back in the day.
And there was that once the heat sink was actually on the back panel through some long heat pipes.
Oh, Rob, just keep going. Talk.
John, you had that, was that Inwin BK623? Do you remember that? I think you said you had one a while back. There was that really corporate-looking Inwin case. That was a micro ATX SFX power supply.
I had the different Inwin one.
Let's go.
I think John had one.
That was Inwin what, sorry?
BK623. It was when Haswell came out, and it was designed it was designed to use the stock Intel cooler.
The one with the
and
shroud.
Then they had
yeah,
they had the shroud. I think some designs like that make a lot of sense, because I would bet that one, I've never tested one, but I bet the cooling probably punched far above its
It was pretty good, because it was pulling coolly straight from outside instead of sucking on what the GPU was putting out.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to reach out to Rick's Random Retro? I think it's Rick's Random Retro. Hit my mic. Sorry, that might have to be edited out. Okay. It's Rick's Random Retro, because he actually has a retro system with a shuttle build that I'm going to have to find out if that has one of those cooling systems in it.
Okay.
So, speaking of wood cases, I guess it wasn't in our map of what we were going to talk about, but since we're here...
I don't have the link, no!
I'm sending you the links. I've got two more that are really interesting. One, I kind of want to talk about the one that's on our forum first, the Artisan Builds.
Ah, yes.
They are, they are taking pre-orders. At least the old news article I wrote was.
That's the one with the fingerprint style rear grille, right?
That's the one with the wood top and the split front panel.
Yeah. Sorry, the front panel. It looks kind of like a fingerprint to me.
I don't see it. I think you're thinking of the Kanto wooden one.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Kanto wooden one, sorry.
Yep.
My bad.
No problem. It's I've sent you the link. It's in our little thing.
I got it.
Again, nice combinations of colors. This is like a flipped version of what we were seeing now. The woods on the top. They have a
interesting. Yeah, I've got a picture up.
Yeah. It's where the stack of them in one of the pictures is a picture where they have all of them in a stack, all the different colors. The angle of it makes it look like the case is not straight. Like it's tilted somehow, some way. I think it's an optical illusion.
I think it is an optical illusion because when I originally saw these ones, I thought they were twisted in a strange.
Yeah.
I think it's just the shading on the front panels that may be throwing that off.
I think so. I think
what a lot of these builders, these case designers are coming across is everyone, you're going to be spending extra money to build a small form factor case to go as a pride of place on your desk. You want something premium, and wood screen premium.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. We have seen for years, like the Ncase M1 and the Dan A4 SFX, they were pioneers in their design. Well, now the major companies have figured out that they can go ahead and just borrow those designs and sell them at a much cheaper price. The NR200, it's a great design case, but thanks to the fact that it's done by a larger company, it can be done for half the price of if a small builder designed. Well, now it's up to the small builders to say, like you said, how can we make ours stand out and be unique? And I think integrating a lot of these luxury craftsmanship style things are, I think that's what's going to do it.
It's impossible to do this at a large scale.
Yeah, you simply can't. It's going to require too much handwork for them to be, or man hours to be able to do it. So, and then this one. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I've got a picture up on screen of the white one with the lighter coloured wood on top. Hopefully this is just a prototype, but the material they're using is quite thin, so it's got kind of a bow to it. So
yes, I can see that.
Yeah. Because it does look like they're using a thin plywood, so it's probably like a birch plywood in that one. And it seems to have twisted a little bit. Anywho.
So that is one concern about any PC case that incorporates a tremendous amount of wood is not metal. It will twist over time, if you apply enough heat to it.
Which, well, what are you attaching it to?
Exactly. So now the nice thing about this one is it does actually support a 280 millimeter AIO. So there's that. Although I am concerned about what looks to be, I want to say, 80 millimeter or smaller exhaust fans on the back. 60 millimeter exhaust fans on the back.
Yeah, they're not 80s.
Those are going to be screamers.
Only if you put them in. I would just leave them empty, to be honest.
Well, that leads me to another thing. One of the things I discovered when I redid the MI6 from my black one to my white one is I actually put a top exhaust fan. And my GPU temperatures in the loft, they have a loft extension, and I put a 120 by 25 millimeter Noctua fan in there as an exhaust, and my GPU temperatures dropped by 10 to 12 degrees Celsius.
So I'm assuming you overclocked to make up that temperature difference?
Of course I did.
Good man, good man.
So,
I'm hearing a trend here. Let's fix the heat problem so we can recreate a new one.
No comment.
I'm not judging. Can't blame you.
That's right. Temperature throttling is no fun.
So
Unless it's
what it also
created by some insane clocks.
indeed, indeed. What it also did is it allowed me to reduce the noise of it. So
which
one thing
was it, the Slim Loft that you used?
I use the Slim Loft.
Yeah,
yes.
I've got that link up there. It's out of stock currently.
I have reached out to Firewolf, the gentleman who created the MI6. I have volunteered my time to assist him with it.
Okay.
But basically what happened is he handed out, by the time he was done, he said that he handed out a $20 bill with every single case because he lost money on everything. So
it's great for the end user, but that's not sustainable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable, and I credit him because he put a lot of clearly love and care into this build. This was a passion project for him, and he created some of the nicest cases I've ever used. But I can't. Nobody can reasonably expect him to lose money on everything he does, and it's hard to get people to be willing to pay $300 for something like this.
Especially if you want to put it up a little bit, so you can actually, there'd have to be $400 something. So you'd actually break
Which
even.
case was this?
MI6.
The CCD MI6.
Yeah.
As of spring 2020, production has been completed. No future production is planned. Alas.
Yeah. And there is... It's interesting because the first half of the first series of production was anodized aluminum. And then after that, everything went to painted aluminum. So I am happy to say that I've got one of the anodized ones. But I also have one of the painted ones. I have a white and black, which I don't think was a very common request from him. And it is still a phenomenal design. If anyone looking to get one of these cases used, or if anybody's selling them, they're worth your money. They really are worth the asking price. So let's, if you don't mind me tossing in one more wooden case, and this is the one I am very excited about because it is utterly craftsman based, and that is the Kanto wooden MATX PC case, and this one is on Etsy.
This is the fingerprint one.
Yes.
This, I think, is absolutely gorgeous.
I love it. I love this case.
That price, though.
Yes.
I don't know what it is in American dollars, but it automatically converts to New Zealand dollars for me, and it's 530 New Zealand plus shipping.
$353.76 on US dollars. So this is probably in this PC, the wood is actually the side panel. It is more it's not just a topping or a decoration. It is a functional part of the case.
New Zealand 580 for the cherry.
Oh, man, I'm looking at that maple with the black. That looks really nice.
So, production-wise, it looks like they're using, living curves for the corners.
Yes.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Which one's that? The cognac.
Oh, very much so.
That is gorgeous.
So, now, something I have not mentioned on our team chat, but I think you'll enjoy. I reached out to them, and I have gotten a written interview from them.
Ooh. It'll be good.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to read behind why they went for the... because I'm looking at the picture now, and the side panel is truly just wood with a couple of metal straps on it. Which is a bold strategy.
Very bold strategy, but it's... I can't argue with the results. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely good. But yes, I did have a written interview with them, and talked to them quite a bit about the design. The design actually reminds me a little bit of the old Silverstone FT03 with the vertical release, but with a more modern design that can take AIOs.
Oh, that's vertical. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's vertical.
Oh, there we go. Next picture. There we go. Ooh. Well, I've just moved out of an FT03 Mini into a measureless, so this is right up my alley. Don't. No, I can't afford it. Can't afford it. Oh, that picture.
And
I've got the picture with the orange glowing fans up with the wood, and it's just... Whoa.
it's very zen-like. I mean, you just look at it and you're like, wow. And they have a front to back airflow, and it looks like it'll have very good ventilation.
Anyone want to buy my mesh listers?
Just put one together.
I just put it together.
So
is it.
That is the last of the wooden cases that I kind of previewed today, and I brought up today, or blah 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 blah.
We get the point.
That's gonna have to be edited out.
No, just leave it.
That's the last of the wooden cases I brought into the conversation today. So
if anyone on the forum or on YouTube has any other ITX with wood cases, please link them. We can't afford them, but please link them.
we do like looking at them.
Yes.
We do like looking at them.
Nothing like a bit of eye candy.
You don't even have to put a PC in it. Just get a nice wooden case so you can just touch the outside and feel the smoothness.
It's amazing.
Well, I a couple of years ago built a custom computer desk out of a big sheet of plywood with an oak veneer on the top, and I'm using that now, and I need stuff to match that.
Very
Nice
nice.
oak veneer.
So, like, I'm just sold on this black maple. I keep going back to it. It's so nice looking. I can see it on my desk right now.
Okay, I'm not seeing a picture of the black maple.
It is the third picture down.
The third picture down. That's showing as birch for me.
Oh, it might be birch. Yeah.
Birch.
It is birch. So, I called it wrong.
You should be ashamed.
Terrifyingly so. So I'm just looking at this case. I'm trying to figure out how I can justify it.
Is that dripping? Is that drool I can hear dripping?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. But my wife will murder me if I try to purchase this.
Yeah.
She just looked at me and nodded. She's you like the computer I got you.
Don't push it. Don't push it. We need some reviews.
Absolutely. So for the record, I built my wife a Ryzen 3900X system with an RTX 2080 in a NZXT H210 case. And that thing has just been a stalwart of her desk, and it's working. I want to upgrade it to a 5950X, but she keeps hissing at me every time I go look at it.
Should be smaller, though.
Needs to be smaller. They say it needs to be smaller, so...
You mean small enough to fit a Yeston or LEDTech GTX 1650 low profile?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Speaking of that,
See.
that was on our list.
That thing, when I first saw the picture of it, I was like, is that really a 1650? Because that thing looks tiny. And maybe it's just I haven't seen a low-profile card in so long. But
unfortunately.
Yeah, that thing looks tiny.
Yeah.
And it's single slot, too. Maybe that's what surprised me.
Single slot, low profile, single blower fan, which is probably not going to be quiet, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard enough to get a regular blower fan to do it.
Here's an interesting thing. I've got a AMD WX 2100 workstation card in the same form factor, and there are companies out there like Bikeski and Barrow who do water blocks for these cards in single slot, low profile. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely see that as something that would be very interesting. I would like to see a builder design a case around this card. I mean, because you could really do something. You could make a really tiny console-style PC out of this.
I was thinking J-Hacks, his Pure Mark II, if that ever actually gets shipped. I think that one's taken a while to get to market, but I think his Pure Mark II, that would be a pretty good one to put it in.
I was thinking, what's his name? Laser 3D.
Yeah.
Not him, but there was someone else designed a case, right? That they're using their factory to build it. Why can I not remember the name of the case?
That's right, I can't remember either.
Just for reference, Laser 3D also offers a wood option.
They do, because I've got one.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I've got one of the really early ones because review sample.
Very, very cool. Very jealous.
That was,
the Cravo.
TT7 the Cravo, yeah, that's the one.
Cravo or Cravo? Yeah, I
Cravo?
can't remember.
Is it a G or a C? I can't remember.
C.
I
Yeah,
think I
just
remember
don't-
typoing it about 5 to 10 times in that review.
There was that one and the HT5. I think the HT5 also might support. Let me look. I'm checking on their website. No, the HT5 does not support low-profile cards. Just motherboard only.
That's the one, yeah.
But Rygen Tech has an Ophion 7-liter case that also supports low-profile cards. That'd probably be a good one for it too. And that one will fit a SFX power supply.
Yeah, because the Gravo was TFX, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Oh,
but the
there's-
Ophion 7-liter, that's 7 liters with low profile. That's starting to kind of push it a little.
I mean, there's always a possibility. Not from Concentrate, we'll do another smaller version of their already small case. So
Apparently there's no comment on that one.
Well, I would
tried.
say, you know what I'd really like to see more than these low-profile cards. Do you guys remember, John, last time I was at Computex with you was when Galax introduced the 1070 Katana?
Oh, yes, I remember that guy.
I would love to see another Katana. I don't know why that thing didn't, I didn't see any reviews on it because it was pretty hard to get, but single slot, full height, 1070. Yeah.
I think mostly because most cases these days that do ITX
And they have
dual
two slot.
slot.
Yeah.
But the problem is most graphics cards that are dual slot are actually like 2.3.
Yeah.
yeah, that seems to be the case right now. It's very hard to find a true dual slot card. I'm looking at this 1070 Katana. You know what my first thoughts were of the GeForce 8600.
Oh yeah,
I think it's 80.
Yeah.
I think they did one very similar to that.
back in the day.
Yeah.
The one thing that's cool though with those single slot ones is if you're using a riser card, you can always get a bifurcation, and then you could have like a PCI SSD or sound card or whatever the heck you wanted to throw in there with it.
Definitely.
But most of those are 3-slot now, and like the Sliker, was it 560 and 580? Those are 3 slots, so I guess that wouldn't really matter too much.
Meshless just has 3 slots as well. I was thinking,
Yeah.
if at some point my bifurcation riders had died, but I was actually considering doing the same thing with my one.
So I'm looking at one of the mentions of it from TechSpot, and I think they actually had a picture of it doing a bifurcation on a ITX board.
Ooh.
It's hard for me to tell, but they seem to have it next to a creative sound card. Looks like a Sound Blaster SBX or Soundcore.
Not the
Yeah,
most
we should-
ideal use, but
No. I mean,
I might as well just get a DAC.
so that's what I did a while back, and I do not regret it. For anyone that is into small form factor, and you also
You'd
are
be in the
into
wrong place for that, I'm sorry.
yeah, and you really, really want great audio, you kind of have to go external DAC.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you're in a full-size PC, it behooves you to do it too.
I mean, why not? It's portable. Most
Exactly.
portable.
You can take them from PC to PC.
Hmm.
So let's see. I'm going to paste this one in the chat, and you guys tell me if that looks like an ITX board to you.
That is indeed an ITX board.
So,
I don't know what that looked... Oh, yes, okay. I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on. I didn't realize that was the Katana hiding behind that sound card.
Actually... Ooh, that's confusing me slightly. I know it doesn't take much, but yeah. No, the slot's not at the bottom. That's weird.
So just so the listeners know, we're all currently staring at a main board trying to figure this thing out.
Oh, I've got this up on the stream as well, not on the recording.
Okay.
I even zoomed in to go with the... What the... That's not ITX. That's...
But it's not MATX either.
No.
DTX?
DTX?
Flex ATX.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think
It could be like
Yeah.
1.5 slot.
Yeah.
Or probably an X16, X1. ECS does
Yeah,
a
that-
lot of boards like that.
That makes sense.
Well, whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. Also completely outdated now. But
How to silence SFF enthusiasts. Show them two different cards on a small form factor system.
yes, if you know what that is, please put it in the forum somewhere.
The board has an LPT port. It's an old DCS board. It'll be Flex ATX.
That's a lot of acronyms.
I'm sorry. I'm not really, but... No, it's... Yeah, audio, USB 3 header, LPT header, serial port header. Yeah. Anywho.
Anyway, what's
Jump
next?
into the Zotac Magnus.
Yes.
Zotac.
Yes.
The Magnus Mini PC with RTX 3080 mobile. I just said mobile like an American.
You did it, and you did it very well.
Oh, God.
2.65 liters, although it does have an external brick,
How big's the brick?
and it is probably half the size of the system.
You're not wrong. I just clicked on the picture. It's about the standard Decimony styles brick. Yeah.
So Zotac has basically put a laptop into a very tiny portable system, and I have an old EN 1070, and I like that thing. But anyone expecting desktop class performance out of this, you have to understand you're going to get a high performance laptop, not a desktop out of it.
Which, let's be
But
honest, is not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. So, you got an 8-core CPU, an Intel i7-11800H, and an RTX 3080 mobile. You also have the ability to put two M2 drives and one 2.5 drive in there, and it has Thunderbolt, which is very useful. They're pushing this as a small form factor creators laptop or creators system.
Which kind of does make sense a bit. Just with the NVIDIA pushing all their different streaming tools and creation tools.
Yes. And I have reached out to Zotac on this, and I do have some unfortunate news. It's not coming to the United States.
But doesn't bother me. Is it coming to New Zealand?
I have no idea what's going on in that half of the world.
Zotac, so no, we don't get anything Zotac down here. It's an absolute shame.
Well, you might be able to import it from China. Unfortunately, what happened is, and this is from Zotac, they wanted to bring it to the US and they wanted to make it more distributed. Unfortunately, the tariffs are so high on it that it would make it basically impossible to sell. So, yay, trade war.
I was about to say exactly that. So in other words, it'd be cheaper for me.
It would be cheaper for you. It would be cheaper for us to go to Computex and buy one.
Well, we'll get there, assuming it's running this year, depending on various factors.
Yes, words that we don't want to say because YouTube will go ahead and algorithm will go ahead and blank this out.
The global situation.
The situation.
Yes.
Yes.
Not the wrestler.
So
Wrestler?
I don't know what it was. I thought he was on Real World or something.
Oh, yeah, it was one of those reality show things. Anyway.
Yes. So, credit where credit is due. I do appreciate the fact that they included those Thunderbolt ports and 2.5 gigabit Ethernet.
Ooh.
So as a creator, I am running into the limitations of 1,000 megabit per second Ethernet off my NAS, and there's a lot of NAS units out now that allow direct Thunderbolt connection for a direct attached, and as well as 2.5 or 10 gigabit. And that can make a huge difference when you're trying to edit videos and keep the files on the NAS, or try to do rapid backups or pull things off of it.
So is it... are both the CPU and the graphics embedded in this, or are they upgradable? Not that you can ever source an upgradable graphics card for anything mobile.
Most likely, I haven't seen the interior of it yet, but most likely that CPU is going to be embedded on the board. And the way that they have done the GPUs in the past is via an MXM card. But I don't know of any 3080 MXM cards. Yeah,
NVIDIA was trying desperately to kill that one.
Yeah,
so I'm mini RTX not being a thing really anymore.
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and probably say that if you buy this, don't count on upgrading it.
Except for memory and storage.
Except for the memory and storage, correct.
Which you do have an M2 solid-state drive slot, a second one that can do Optane for those who use Optane. 2.5 inch 2.5 inch bay and 2 memory slots up to 64 gig, which, yeah, that's not too bad.
So I'm going to go ahead and play devil's advocate here and say, why should we get this over a laptop?
That's a damn good, especially for creators who would want to do editing and stuff like that on the move.
Exactly. Right now, I'm having troubles giving you a great reason why.
Outputs.
I can
see is the outputs.
The outputs, yes. The other thing is, I will say that there's probably more opportunity. Excuse me. Probably more opportunity for sustained high boost speeds and boost clocks, because the cooling in this is going to be stronger than that of a modern laptop.
It honestly doesn't look like it though. Like, I'm looking at the 3D shot and it just looks like a laptop cooling solution.
I have torn these apart, and it is definitely got a bit more, or at least my old ones have had stronger cooling than they have.
It's definitely the same style fan, but...
Yes, it is going to be the same style, but, Zotac generally does a good job with their cooling systems. So, but honestly, it would be difficult for me to justify, and I think this is also probably one of the reasons they're not bringing it into the U.S. I would have a hard time justifying paying $2,500 for this when I can get a laptop that also includes a screen
and a keyboard
for the same price. Yeah, and a keyboard and
a battery.
Battery. Yep.
So you can import stuff off cameras when you're out in the field.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can view stuff immediately. So
I guess I think it's a neat extra. To me, it's just the ports, because it's got dual display port, dual HDMI, 4 USB 3.1 on the back, 2 network jacks, and on the front you've got a card reader, which most laptops have anyway. There's a better shot of the front. Yeah, and a Thunderbolt 4 on the front, but yeah, it's the only advantage I can see, because you can get the same basic performance out of a laptop. The battery might last only like about half an hour, but you can get the performance out of a laptop.
Yep, and then the other competition it's going to be going up against is the new Macs.
Which I haven't actually looked into, to be honest.
The chip powering the new Macs is quite impressive.
Okay.
It's
and
got
if that M1 Pro goes into the Mac Mini this spring, that will be a pretty big deal.
Yes.
Because the Mac Minis due for a refresh sometime this year, and that'll get a new design, and potentially either the M2 chip, or if Apple wants to be awesome, maybe they'll bless us with an M1 Pro or M1 Pro Max or Max. I don't remember what they call them.
Yep.
Pro Plus, Elite, Ultra 5G Max.
XXL.
Something like that. So what I would love to see Zotac do is create a less expensive, less high-end version of this that includes a 5600X from AMD, or whatever the next generation 7600X, something along that line, and a desktop class GPU. Maybe make it just a tad thicker to be able to get that cooling, but I think that would actually be a better solution for the average person and probably cost a lot less.
I mean, it's great as a flagship glory model, but who's going to use it?
It is definitely niche within niche.
Yes.
I love the design, and I
I'd
certainly
love
wouldn't
one,
mind
but-
having one on. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for those that were ragging on them right now, but I love the design. I think it looks great, but I can't see myself spending $3,000 on this, whatever it's going to cost. The price was not listed last I saw.
Oh, so expensive then.
Most likely. In fact, let's see if we can find the price real quick.
And
Let's
while he
see
goes
here.
quiet, we'll keep scrolling through the page.
Oh, sorry. I guess I should be talking about it.
No, it's fine.
Well, the last one that they had like this, the 2080 version, typically sold between $1,900 and $2,200, depending on where you bought it from.
And I'm willing to bet that if it was under $2,000 with even a 3080 mobile, miners would probably be buying them all up. So yeah, you're probably right on that 3,000. Although Bitcoin's going down, maybe it'll keep going. We'll see where it goes.
It's going back up again today by the looks of it.
Is today Monday or
And
Sunday
graphics
for you?
cards.
Is it still Sunday here?
What happened to all the ASIC miners? Where are they? Where are they? Somebody needs to get back.
Chip shortage.
Oh God, yes, you're right. Answered my own question. All right.
Okay,
Moving on.
let's
Moving
depress
on.
these, please.
Should we shift back to ITX cases?
Oh god, that was
I know
the
we were
worst
going with
segue.
this. That was. Oh God. That's it. I'm
I
out.
don't
I'm
know
out.
what you're all thinking about it, but I'm interested in this case. I want it, and especially if the price is right. This is going to replace my Sliger, I think, the Shift XT.
Kind of looks like a transformer had laid an egg. I'm sorry, that's just we've gone way industrial modern on this one.
I'm not going to be able to unsee that, but I still like it.
I'm sorry.
So I think Fantex has done a good size. Fantex has been learning a lot lately and responding to community, not outreach, but community
Feedback.
Thank you. Brain failure again. They have been responding well to community feedback, especially with the mesh versions of some of their other cases, creating more airflow, and they're very much willing to work with the small form factor PC enthusiasts. I think this is a really nice design.
It's interesting because it wasn't the original Evolve a tower.
It
Looks like
was.
just laid it down.
Yeah, the Evolve Shift was a tower, I believe.
Because I was looking at it a while ago.
I actually built one,
Okay.
and it was one of the very nice looking case and one of the loudest cases I've ever built. I had a RX 590 in it from ASRock. I had a R5 2600 with a Noctua L9. L9? Wow. Okay, cut that out. Where my brain's failing.
Hey, you're doing the editing.
Oh God, yeah, I am. So, Noctua, it had the Noctua L9A, and unfortunately, with the glass panels, it just became heat soaked the entire time. There was no amount of exhaust, no amount of intake that I could make for it.
Hey, weren't you the
Moreover,
guy about to buy a glass side panel for his meshless?
Quiet, you. Quiet.
I had the same encounter with it, and I actually I bought one on Amazon, and I ended up returning it. And I was only using a 570, not even a 590 on mine, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work out.
No. What I ended up doing is I placed it up against a wall, and I just simply removed the back panel.
Oh, yeah. But that's...
And
So you're telling us the wall had better airflow than
sadly, yes. Oh. So
the ideal use case, the ideal use case and build up of this involved a room. Was it actually small?
What?
What,
No, it wasn't actually all that small. It really wasn't.
Anyhow,
but it was a neat system. But I think they really hit it out of the park with the Shift XT if they come through with everything they're saying.
we shall see. That's what they're predicting. What US 169 release price?
That's quite a bit more than the Shift that the current tower, because they have the Air model of the current tower, and that's $100. I think that's quite a bit of a jump over that.
There looks to be quite a bit of a technology and feature increase, though.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Including the adjustable size.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, it's... Previously, all we've seen is that you have to buy... the SFF user has had to adjust themselves to the case, as opposed to the case adjusting itself to the user. I like this adjustable size thing.
Yeah, but what point is it cheating?
I don't know.
Well,
but it's like...
got
Sorry?
4 sandwich cases, and now Fantex comes out and they've got one that can match all 4 of their sandwich cases, so that's pretty good.
Well, the flip side is...
Because,
I've always complained about a certain case, won't mention any names, and I've always said that so the worst thing ever to have in a small form factor, but it's also one of the best things to have in small form factor because it's a stepping stone.
Yes.
And people will see this and they'll say, okay, I'll expand it out, fill all my hardware, and hey, I wonder if I could shrink this a little bit.
Yeah. Who knows, maybe in a year we'll see a wood version of this.
I highly doubt it. But I'm sure some modders out there will do it.
Yeah. So what is, Rob, what's your system that you're going to try to squeeze into this thing?
So right now I've got a Sliger SM570 with the Corsair H100X cooling it, and it's a 9700K and a GTX 1080. I'm actually planning on getting rid of that build, selling it, and going... That was why I had that picture up with my R9 Nano and my Broadwell 5775C. I'm going to use that as a temporary holdover until GPU prices come down, and then I'm thinking probably AM5 and a RTX 3080 or whatever comes out this fall. That's what I'm thinking from there. Yeah, I do want to stick with Ryzen because I'm thinking the reason I'm interested in this case is my Sliger was it like 55 millimeters clearance on that, so the best I can hope for is a Alpenfon Black Ridge. But I could go with Noctua L12S, which would give a pretty decent boost in performance. So, if the 6950X was the same cooling demands as the 5950X, I could probably get away with an air cooler on that. I'm wanting to get away from liquid, from the AIOs.
Custom loop.
I'm wanting to get away from liquid in general.
Custom loop. It's the only way.
Custom air loop.
Yeah. It just involves your...
He has to run a 500 PSI air compressor just to...
Just put it over in the neighbor's shed.
What was that that pump cooler that the DIY hacks on YouTube did? Did you ever see that?
No, I have not.
Oh man, I'll have to find the link and post it. It was going around on the forum. You've probably seen it. I didn't explain it well enough for you to remember.
Or we just burnt it out of our memories with alcohol.
Yeah,
that's entirely possible.
Not a small form factor case. It's like the size of a large aquarium.
Oh, in that case, I definitely burnt it out of my memory with alcohol.
Are any of us not drinking as we're doing this podcast?
I am not.
You are a disappointment.
Failure.
I'm about to run out.
Jeez. All right, so one thing I do want to mention is that Fantex actually does something a little bit different than most of these cases, is that the exhaust for the power supply is actually facing downward and going out the bottom of the case.
I'm going to have to disagree with you with that being different, but...
I mean, there's not that many that are doing it. It's... So, I actually like this.
Cooler Master Elite 120s used to do this. Well, no, not the Elite 120. I'm thinking of an old case. Ignore me for a minute while I Google.
I ignore you anytime.
Oh, I know.
What?
Unless you need something.
Huh? So, one of the things I found with one of my concerns I had with some of the newer sandwich style cases is that not only do you have that have AIOs above the case, is that not only do you have the graphics card and the VRMs exhausting heat through that AIO, you also have the power supply exhausting heat through that AIO. And I don't know if anyone has ever felt the back of a... Of course, I don't know if anyone has ever felt the back. I don't know if our readers have ever really reached around the back of the case and...
Reach around.
Yeah, that's going to be edited out.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if any of the... let's start that one again. I don't know how many of our readers have actually measured the heat coming off the back of a SFX power supply when it's at full tilt, but it is substantial. And having that being shot directly into the radiator, I mean, you're going to definitely be affecting your CPU cooling at that point. Yeah, so I like the fact that they're actually turning it downward. It also helps with cable management, in that it makes it easier.
Yes. We'll just make it awkward by being quiet.
Dun dun dun.
I'm trying to I remember building with a small form factor case that did exactly this with the power supply, but I can't find it because I can't remember what it's called.
Pictures or it didn't exist.
Well, you say that, but it's one of those things where I've been doing small form factor for so long, I've lost track of the names and of everything.
I actually want to say I think the original Fantex Evolved shift shot the air down the bottom.
Yes, but that was different. It was 90-degree layout to what this is. It was like a FTO
Yes.
3 mini on the inside.
So it's a new...
I think it was bottom mount ports rather than top.
So
Anywho,
let me toss this one to Rob. Rob, what do you think about this compared to the new Dan A4 SFX HTO?
So, I like the Dan A4. I haven't seen the new HTO. I'm assuming since the new HTO has HTO in it, Dan A4 HTO, blah, blah, blah. I'm assuming since the Dan A4 has HTO in it, the new one, it's liquid cooled. I'm wanting to get away from that, so that's why I'm thinking this shift. And if I change my mind, so that's the thing is, I bought this Sliger SM570 because I thought, well, I'll go with liquid cooling. And for this reason you mentioned earlier, that thing gets hot. Like that 9700K is with 5 gigahertz Paul core, it's getting 95 Celsius easily if I'm doing rendering or something like that. And that's why I'm wanting to switch back to air. But if I did change my mind later, I could still go back to that with the Shift XT. So I'm gonna stick with the Shift XT.
Gotcha.
If I were to get a Dan A4, I think I'd just get the normal one because I do like that case quite a bit, and you can fit the Black Ridge in there. Or the other advantage on the Dan A4 is I could put the Asetek 92mm AIO, and that's mounted at the bottom. I think that's a big plus there.
Okay. So, for those that don't know, the Dan A4 H2O is a combination case that's being done by Leanne Lee and Dan from Don Dan. What does he call himself? I think he's just Dan.
I already scrolled to the bottom of his posts, so...
Yeah, so he's one of the pioneers of small form factor cases. He's one of the ones that really popularized that, if not created, the sandwich style layout.
To the point where every IGX case on AliExpress has A4 in the name.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's two cases that everybody has been copying, and that is the Encase M1, which is gone now, and the Dan A4 SFX. And I have both of them, and they're phenomenal cases. But this is interesting because it is going to be sold through common retailers like Newegg and various other parties. And the pictures that he's posting of the units, the dark gray and the black, are just phenomenal. So it makes me almost want to tear down what I have now and rebuild.
No.
I know.
Unfortunately,
unfortunately, we are not on the initial review list. I begged and pleaded, but check out Optimum Tech. They're going to be getting one. What's the Hardware Canucks? They're getting one to review. So keep looking at those channels and other small form factor channels. They're going to be having them, and so far everything looks really, really good for it.
You make the
starting at 115. That's cheap.
That is pretty good. Economy of scale. You're saying that
exactly.
You can buy it through normal retailers. I am in the lucky position where one of our local retailers imports a whole lot of unique, smaller market, small form factor cases. Like I bought my mesh litters from them. They also do Loke.
Yes.
Yep. I can walk into a shop and buy a Ghost. Not a Ghost. What's their case called?
Ghost S1.
What's...
Lock. Oh.
Hey. That is the Ghost. I was thinking to something else, but yeah.
Anyway,
I'm tired. No, I didn't want to attribute the Ghost to the wrong person because we've had issues in the community with people taking designs. Anywho.
Yes. Well, I'm going to give one big prop to Dan on this because there are thumb screws on the back.
Yes.
And if anyone has worked on a A4 SFX, it is wonderfully designed, but it's got the smallest screws I've ever had to deal with. So I'm very happy to see those thumb screws.
You know you can change screws out, right?
Got to make the holes bigger.
Ah, okay.
So this time I win that one.
Ah, okay.
So, he's already posted up the user manual, and he has also posted up the, I believe the graphics card
Compatibility chart.
compatibility. Yeah.
So that posting, how to put it? If you're a creator on our forum and you're building up a case or a product to sell, the number one thing that will get me to buy your product is posting the user manual. Because that is what shows me dimensions, it's what shows me how easy it is to build in your case. It shows me that you care enough to do a user manual. I know of other cases that don't actually have user manuals.
Jeez, yeah.
Yep. I believe the M1 never had a user manual.
You know, when I initially did the build of my M1, long before I was involved in the small form factor community and I was just somebody drifting by who wanted one, I think I had to watch a YouTube video.
Oof.
I think that was the only way I was able to find information on it.
There's even a PDF user manual will say, this is how you put the graphics card in. Use this bracket and use these screws. Fantastic.
Yeah. It makes such a difference when you actually can have a reference sheet.
Yeah.
And please do a better job than IKEA. Please.
I was about to say, if you really want to get on John's good side, make a manual with no text and very vague and unclear pictures.
No.
So.
Like
oh my god.
I keep using the case as an example, but the mesh listers came with a really good manual. It was very little words. It was good, clear pictures though.
You know, I lost mine. It's somewhere. It was like a folded piece of paper, and I can't find it.
Just download the PDF.
Yeah. I know.
I downloaded the PDF the moment I hit, before I hit buy on that case. Because that way, I had specific needs for the case where I wanted to do the horizontal graphics card and a pump res combo and this, that, the other, and I wanted to see if it was actually physically possible before dumping $200 on a case.
Indeed. So
all
right,
a good example of one that doesn't have a good manual is I don't know if it's just AKLLA or Aquila, but they have their A3 case. It's a Chinese company, and I built my R9 Nano and Broadwell. I'd originally built in one of those, and that thing was a nightmare to build in. And I got like halfway done, and then realized wrong order. Got to literally disassemble everything and start over.
That's the number one thing about a manual is they say, okay, put this in first. And they're not saying that for no reason. They've done it themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of scrape knuckles and cut fingers learning how to build these systems.
Yep.
So there's a reason they do it.
I should see if I can find my C2 and do a video on making dinner with it. It is that bad.
Can you try to stuff a thermal right Silver Arrow 130 into it?
I like having fingers.
It's the only heatsink I've ever used that came with gloves because it was so sharp you wouldn't be able to handle it otherwise. What were they thinking?
I have the Thermalright. They're one of their copper series ones, and it came with gloves too. I think that's to keep smudges off. I don't know.
I think in this case it was needed for the sharp edges.
Yes. I do not the Silver Arrow 130. I've never been 135. Silver Arrow 130 is a phenomenal cooler. Let me start that over.
We'll get there in the end.
Yeah. The Silver Arrow that I'm talking about, the 130, is a phenomenal cooler for example, the MKS M1. It is so sharp that I will never, ever remove that motherboard from the MKS M1 because I just do not ever want to touch it again.
Which one was it?
So
the Silver Arrow, which model?
I believe the 130.
130. Let's see if I can find your review, just for funs.
I don't think, did I do a full review?
Yeah, you did a review on Amazon. I mean, it was running across that.
I'm a little crueler on Amazon than I am.
Well, you still get the point across. So it's this cooler that's showing up on screen on YouTube right now, on the video right now. So she's a little spiky. And somewhere in the reviews, I can't remember how I sorted for it, but I would find... There we go, Revenant. Perfect for in-case M1. Wear the gloves.
That's the summary of it.
Yep, you docked it 1 star because of the sharp edges.
Yeah.
But apparently it was a fantastic cooler.
You know what? I think I just found the one on our actual forum that I put on there. Yeah, let me post that up. January 8th, 2020.
At what point does a CPU cooler become a war crime?
Yeah, I mean, think about this. If you were building this system as a production in the United States, you would have to be very concerned about OSHA and OSHA violations. You would actually have to have company procedures for putting this on a motherboard.
That'd be a bit thicker than the gloves you would have got with the cooler too. You know, full leather, hide leather gloves and safety glasses and...
Yes.
Spray yourself in the eye with blood.
To be fair, they have corrected that with the next version. At least it looks like they have corrected it. I have not gotten one in for review yet, but I do plan to try to pick one up eventually.
Carefully. Pick it up carefully.
Yes. Yes. And if anybody's wondering if I will ever review the Silver Arrow 130 as it is the one that tried to kill me, no. That's done. It's never going to be reviewed again.
That thing's getting e-recycled in one piece. That computer.
Exactly. I'm just... never touching that thing again. So, all right, what's next? What do we got next?
I don't know. We're sitting at an hour and a half at the moment, so I don't know how far we want to go.
I'm up for discussion about chips.
Chips.
Just a new Rembrandt, not potato chips, but
Well, I'm hungry
Rembrandt was announced at CES, and then Samsung announced the new Exynos, which I know is more mobile and not small form factor, but that is exciting because that's RDNA 2 on mobile. And if anyone's been paying attention lately, they might have noticed that Apple has absolutely murdered Windows in the workstation field with the new M1, M1 Pro, and M1 Max chips. So we're all kind of waiting to see where ARM goes with Qualcomm and Samsung. And I think having that Exynos kind of on, it looks like it's about on par with the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. God, that's even worse than Intel's naming convention. But that's
just surrender yourself to the letters and numbers.
Yeah, but hopefully, maybe we will see in the next couple of years a Exynos chip powering a Windows on ARM tablet or notebook with some RDNA graphics in there. I think they're, what are they calling them? Like X something? X Clips? I don't know if that's supposed to be Eclipse or X Clips or whatever their Samsung's calling the RDNA 2 graphics on mobile, but that'll be interesting. But in the meantime, we'll at least get AMD's Rembrandt. Those were announced at Computex, and those will also be having RDNA 2 graphics. Looks like up to 12 compute units in there, so not quite to Xbox Series S level performance, but not too far off of it. And I think it was 2500 megahertz clock speed on the GPU, which was quite a bit higher than the Series S. So that's exciting.
Well, RDNA 2 is really making a large play into the ultra mobile area. I mean, between that and the Steam Deck and a couple other upcoming systems, it's interesting to see this becoming so heavily used. And I can see why NVIDIA really wanted to buy ARM, because they just can't offer the same package that AMD can offer right now. My one concern is that one of my favorite old school companies, PowerVR, is one of the primary runners in mobile market in terms of graphics design, and I would just hate to see them get killed again, But that's for anyone that doesn't know, PowerVR took on Voodoo and 3DFX and AMD or ATI back in the day, and a dozen other vendors, and they actually had a really, really good graphics card, PowerVR card, and it ended up being used in the Dreamcast, but they went entirely to the mobile market after that. And I just really like their tech. And this has nothing to do with what he said, so I'm going to edit it out.
How much are we going to have any podcast left after you finish editing?
No.
Just
we're going to have the introduction.
The introduction, this little snippet, and then the outro.
Exactly. So
I think, though, that one of the exciting things both about the Exynos, because I think sooner or later we're going to start getting more and more Windows ARM stuff, especially as other companies start porting stuff. We've seen Adobe, their stuff is optimized for the new M1 chips, and as other people start optimizing for ARM on Apple, they're going to release it on Windows as well. So I'm really excited to see, because Qualcomm, they've got their new HCX Gen 3, which looks pretty promising. I think it's something like 4 of their new the ARM X1 cores, and it's pretty much all power cores. They're not using the efficiency cores. So that should be decent, probably not on the M1 level. But as we start to get more and more ARM chips, I think we're going to see some pretty impressive stuff, especially in these small form factors, because things like Alder Lake are really pushing the limits of what you can do on small form factor. You need liquid cooling on that, and things are going to start getting bigger and bigger in order to fit these 3-slot GPUs and AIO 280 millimeter AIOs. And I think some of these ARM chips might be a way back to get something smaller. That's why I'm excited there.
That does bring up the point. Are we hitting the limits of what modern x86 can do in terms of performance per power? I'm reading an article right now about the Ryzen CPU that's in the Tesla Model 3, and apparently it's, even though it's a 45 watt embedded unit, it still is drawing enough power that it reduces the Model 3's range by about 2 to 3% if this article from WCCF Tech is to be believed, and take that with a grain of salt.
You should have prefaced it with that, not...
Well, to be fair, the report came from Tesla Scope, which is I guess a Tesla forum or tweeter, or I don't know. But
yeah, I think we are, because brain fade.
That's all right.
As we go lower and lower in the nanometers, we can't go past 1 because that's atomic scale. You can't make anything smaller than an atom when it comes to circuitry. So we're getting really, really close to that. And that means we have to go bigger and more power hungry to get any more performance. So we need to change architecture.
Yeah. I mean,
physics is kind of like a hard limit.
Yeah, I mean, x86 it receives a lot of criticism, but credit where credit is due, and I say that a lot. They are backwards compatible all the way back to the 8086.
Yeah.
And you can run pretty much anything on those chips, but when Apple, for example, since it has a vertical integration of their processors, OS, and everything, they can control everything, and they don't need to worry about backwards compatibility nearly as much as an 8086 producer. I'm all for AMD and I'm all for ARM and RISC architectures and open RISC being pushed more into the forefront, just to see if we can actually win back some of that performance per watt and see if we can actually do something different. And just so everyone knows, there was a time that Intel was pushing away from x86 with VLIW, which is very long instruction. I think it's very long instruction wording or something like that. And it just never worked out.
Because Intel's also played with ARM.
Yes. Don't be fooled. AMD, Intel, Motorola, all of them have ARM architecture CPUs sitting in the back.
AMD was going to integrate them as security cores into... It was planned for Ryzen, I think. Or was it late bulldozer?
Interesting.
They were going to use ARM as security sub-cores or something. I do remember that. I know that inside every NVIDIA GPU is an ARM CPU. Doing something. I know that they integrated those into there a long time ago. Is it hardware monitoring?
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
And of course you have, the fact that they are trying to purchase ARM, which is currently being blocked. Oh, yeah, please don't. It's being blocked by, I think, both the UK and US governments at this time, or at least they're going to attempt to block it.
Yeah,
but
x86 in itself is such a disaster because you've only got 2.1 companies that are allowed to use that architecture.
Yep. And that's one of the problems. We need some competition. We need some innovation on that. I like open RISC. Personally, I'm more of a fan of open RISC than I am of the ARM architecture, but I would definitely not want to see the ARM architecture closed down by NVIDIA.
Which sounds like something they would do. Or licensing fees.
Yeah, do you think unless, and it's entirely possible, I'm not real familiar with the investments a lot of the companies have made into it, such as Apple and whatnot, but I understand that there are some portions of the licensing for ARM that regardless of who it gets sold to, regardless of who it becomes, they still have access to the technology. But there is absolutely no way that AMD or the NVIDIA would allow Intel to continue or have a license in any way if they can stop them in any way possible.
They would limit them
because
as much as they can. Here's a basic license. You can use an ARM core from 10 years ago.
Exactly. It would be payback for them not being able to get the x86 core, because NVIDIA has wanted the x86 for a long time.
And the only way they could have done it is to buy VIA, which was blocked by both AMD and Intel as the only the only remaining x86 license holders.
Yes.
And even, if I remember correctly, even VIA getting x86 license was not legit in the way they did it.
Yeah, I mean, technically the way AMD got it was not quite the
well, they got it by
legit
default
way.
because they were cloning Intel chips.
And they were cloning them for Intel.
Yes.
There are Intel purchased chips that say AMD on them.
Yeah. There was the IBM PS2s were full of them, if I remember correctly.
So I like the idea of us having some diversity in it. I really want to see some native ARM Windows apps versus their x86 counterparts.
Yeah, that's the one problem that I see with moving away from x86 is I won't be able to play my old games in again. Unless you get some really, really good emulators.
That could be troublesome. I mean, you're going to have to keep an x86 PC around.
I've seen on the Apple M1s, they've been doing a pretty good job. I don't know if it's just the Rosetta emulation that they do, but a lot of games that I like to play that are very CPU heavy run fairly decently on the M1 chips. For example, like Hearts of Iron 4 is a very CPU dependent game, and from what I've seen, it doesn't run great, but it runs about as well as a 1 or 2 year old, mobile chip x86 processor. So it's running at least as well as the old MacBook processors would run it. So I think that's promising, at least.
There is only one question though. Can it run Crysis?
Oh God.
I'm sorry.
For the no. Can it run Cyberpunk?
Nothing can run Cyberpunk.
No, nothing can run Cyberpunk. If you don't believe us, go ahead and set Cyberpunk to 4K, turn off DLSS, set everything to the highest setting, and enjoy the slideshow. It's going to be like playing Myst.
We'll mail your second frame in 3 to 5 working days.
So, there's one of the benefits of having the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One series consoles be so dominant in the market for gaming was the fact that they came equipped with garbage Jaguar core CPUs. We're talking, these things were, the entire 8 cores at 2.3 gigahertz was roughly equal to the performance of a Core Quad chip at 2.4 gigahertz.
Well, they're bulldozer based.
Yeah. They're not even bulldozer based.
Really?
No, they were like pre-bulldozer. They were something else. I think they're basically Athlon 64s in terms of performance. So it was pretty garbo. So the good news is that any games that were produced during that time period should be able to be emulated well by a modern high-performance ARM core, as opposed to the newer stuff that's for PS5 or that's based off Zen 2.
Yeah, I think that should be promising, because a lot of, some PC games are pretty CPU heavy, like the Hearts of Iron 4 and then like City Skylines. You have some, but even like City Skylines, that thing runs on a Nintendo Switch.
Yes.
So I'm kind of thinking it's possible to get these games running on on ARM processors.
And Nintendo Switch is an ARM processor for those that do not know.
Yeah.
So.
An NVIDIA one. A garbage NVIDIA one. Not garbage, just old.
Ion?
What's that?
Ion? I don't know.
Ion? Oh, no, it's Tegra X1.
Oh, yeah, Tegra.
Yeah.
Yes, Tegra X1. Yep.
It's the Tegra X1 running at like half of its normal clock speed. That's the shocking thing about the Switch, is that it is... I think in mobile mode, it only runs at one... So the Tegra X1 and the NVIDIA Shield console Android TV thing, that runs at 1,000 megahertz. And the Switch, if you're not docked, it's only running at like 370 megahertz.
Digital Foundry did a... I was going to say, Digital Foundry did a great video a while back on overclocking the Switch.
Nice
so, which means just returning the X1 to its normal specs.
So when I was working at Ubisoft, my team was one of the first teams that started working on the Switch and started porting the games over. And I remember like reading the specs on it. I was like, oh, cool, Tegra X1. And then reading the clock speeds through all of Nintendo's documents. And it was just like, oh my god, this thing is a joke. How is anything going to run on this?
You know, and yet it is still running. You know, I thought for sure by now they would have gone to something else, but...
I would have too. Like, I can't imagine it's cost effective to keep producing. And I know they have like an updated X1 chip now, but even a mid-range Snapdragon is more powerful than the X1 at this point.
You know, it's not to mention what's in a, say, an iPhone 13. You know, just it's the Apple A chips are just unbelievably powerful for that too.
Maybe we'll get lucky and this new Exynos 2200 will be in a Switch competitor from Samsung. That would be cool.
I think the biggest Switch competitor you're going to see for right now is going to be that Valve. The Valve.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Already got our RDNA too, and it's more powerful than Exynos anyway.
Mm-hmm. So I think as far as the Switch goes, I am looking forward to the next one. There is no reason they couldn't do a 6 to 10 times increase in performance overall compared to what they have now, because we're talking a 2015 mobile chip, and the mobile chips are still increasing in performance per watt so much faster than x86 at this point.
Okay, after all the talk about CPUs and everything like that, it's time for us to crash, unlike the CPUs. So thank you for joining us. It has been myself, John. We've had Revenant, aka Chris.
Yo.
And
good night.
IntoxicatedPuma, aka Rob.
I'd go with Howdy Doody, but I think I already said that. So adios.
All right.
Thank you for
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Make sure you join us on the forum, links below, and join us for the next one. Thanks for listening.